Welcome to the Bill Levinson Experience, a motivational podcast relating to the insurance brokerage industry and business in general. And now, here's Bill Levinson.
Okay, welcome everyone, and thanks for joining us on the Bill Levinson Experience podcast. Obviously, I hope everyone walks away with some great nuggets of information as usual. We know your time is very valuable, and quite frankly, so is ours. So we want to jump right in. Make sure you have a clean piece of paper, notes. If it's your note app, let's say on your cell phone, that's fine too. But I want to make sure that, yes, you listen in today, but you also revisit these notes and points and sales ideas so you can gain as much knowledge as possible to help your clients and ultimately make more sales. So very, very important stuff. This is the first time that we've had an estate planning attorney on our podcast episode, and I thought this would be very valuable because, as we know, as insurance agents, financial advisors, I know we have a lot of CPAs on that are also licensed, we know how important estate planning ideas and strategies are for planting or teeing up a life insurance sale. So very, very important stuff. And, you know, Lorne Berkeley is joining us today. He happens to be our attorney here on a personal side, on a business side, and he also happens to be one of the top estate planning attorneys here in South Florida. He has many celebrity clients. I won't mention any names, but this stuff goes a long way. If you can leverage his expertise and his knowledge, it's a win-win for everyone. Okay, I also want to mention before jumping in here that we had our premium finance guru on last month, and we have agents making literally hundreds of thousands of dollars on these premium finance sales. And one of his main points was to introduce an estate planning attorney to your prospect that can kind of oversee everything and make sure everything looks up to par, just to make sure that your client is comfortable and that you're comfortable in moving forward. So you can also leverage Lorne for those types of sales as well. Also, let's say for if you're forming a corporation or you want, let's say, legal advice on your website or any kind of key man, buy, sell, business insurance, Lorne can also be of great value to you. And one more thing, I know I'm ranting again, but I want to add this. You know, I've been in this business now over 22 years. And, you know, good times, bad times, all the above. We've had a lot of opportunities in working with other attorneys, and we all know, you know, the typical, like, shadow with when working with attorneys and how they charge you these crazy, ridiculous rates, and they're never upfront with their fees. And, you know, by the time the case or the advice is wrapped up, you get another bill and another bill. And Lorne is the kind of guy, first of all, he's a personal friend of mine, and I don't say this lightly, but I'll tell you this, everything is up front, it's black and white. By being a Levinson agent, you get to take advantage of his special rates, okay, which is another big plus, but I have never met another attorney like Lorne, and that's why it was so important for me to introduce him to all of our agents on this call. And even if you're not an agent, he's got a very inspiring story of how he grew up and how he became one of the top celebrity type attorneys in South Florida. So I'm very proud of him, and I'm proud to introduce him to you all. So first off, welcome, Lorne, and thank you so much for joining us. It's a real pleasure and honor, quite frankly. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Bill. I really appreciate the kind words and the very generous introduction, and I look forward to joining your podcast today and hopefully helping all the people out there listening make better business decisions, realize the various business opportunities that are out there.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Lorne. Yeah, that means a lot to us. So, and I asked Lorne, like I wanted him to share on a personal level, forgetting like the legal part of all this, but to talk about how he got started, some of his obstacles, and what pushed him through to ultimately become, like I said 3 times already, one of the top attorneys, in my opinion, in South Florida. So we're going to have some great stuff, and then we're going to end probably about 60% through. We're going to have Lorne share some estate planning ideas and some legal advice and different ways to help you tee up the insurance sale and help you and your client. Okay, and another thing, it just came to my mind that I want to add, we talk about like the premium finance sale and how, you've done all the legwork and you've put the illustrations together and the proposals and you bring everything up to your perfect client, right? The perfect candidate. And then a lot of times what happens is the client has their own CPA or estate planning attorney that they bring into the mix, and maybe they have a family member that's also an attorney or an agent or maybe both, okay? And what happens a lot of times, you lose the sale by introducing a third party. So another thing to keep in mind is Lorne is on your team. Okay, so you don't have to worry about any of that, okay? If there's a sale that's going to be made between the teamwork of you, us, and Lorne, the sale will be completed and you'll know everything's 100% above board. Okay, so how did we meet, right? You're probably scratching your head saying, Bill, you're an IMO, and in fact, one of the top IMOs with 17,000 agents, and how do you bring an estate planning attorney onto your podcast? So, it started a few years back. As you know, if you know me pretty well, I'm a huge car enthusiast. I'm into all the different exotic car shows and runs and events. And Lorne also happens to be in the same group. So we were introduced and we became great friends ever since. And when you meet Lorne, and hopefully you'll get the time to do this either in person or on a phone call, but he's a real guy, okay, just like you and everyone else on the call. So, yes, he does very well for himself, and he's a partner in his firm, and, he's got so many great credentials, but it's just like talking to me or you or anyone else, and he makes you feel very, very comfortable. So we have a lot in common. I know his family. We all get along great. And I said this now for the second time that I'm not going to introduce anyone to you all unless I'm 100% comfortable, okay? And I don't take that lightly. It's very important for me to say that 3 times now. So very important stuff. You can feel comfortable, especially introducing him to your clients on a conference call or an in-person meeting. Okay, so Lorne, what I want to do, if you don't mind, I want to jump right into, maybe let's go back a little bit, and if you can explain, how it began for you growing up, education-wise, where you grew up, some of your legal experience, and how you got, let's say, maybe what made you focus on law school and then, want to become an attorney. If we can go back maybe 20 years or so, can you tell us how it all began?
Sure. So growing up in New York and New Jersey area, which is where I'm originally from, along with my family, everybody was attorneys. So it's pretty much all I knew growing up from the time I was a little kid. Father, uncle, aunts, cousins, everybody in my family, they were attorneys. So it was really something that I was exposed to at a young age, grew up listening to the stories at family meals, holidays about different, legal experiences, different cases that my family members had, and always found it extremely interesting. And that sort of obviously exposed me to the legal industry. Didn't have a family business or anything like that to really focus in on. Some families, they own a family business. They manufacture different products, and it's something that they can as a child, they're involved in, they go to work with their family members and they see it. Here, nothing like that. So it was, you need an education, you need to go to college, need to get that law degree in order to, I guess, not really fit in, but to at least be involved in the same industry or area of work that all my family members were involved in. So knowing that to be the case, from the time I was a little kid, always took my studies seriously, went to University of Miami, graduated in 3 years instead of 4 years, went to summer school every summer, knew I wanted to be an attorney, and more specifically, a prosecutor, which I'll get into momentarily. So I was just laser focused on getting that law degree and being able to start making my own money, start being independent from the mom and dad helping out. So at the end of the day, that's pretty much how I became interested within the legal industry, because it's really all I was exposed to.
It's like similar to me in the insurance world, where you're literally born with an insurance spoon in your mouth. I mean, I remember knowing like what a universal life policy was before I knew how to drive. So it Exactly. Sounds very similar.
Exactly. So, after going to college at University of Miami, sort of speeding up my studies there by going to summer school, I knew I wanted to be a state prosecutor because that's how you got the courtroom and litigation experience. I equate it to sort of a doctor doing an internship where you go, you work at the hospital, you're getting paid peanuts, but at the end of the day, they're throwing you in trauma, they're throwing you in the emergency room, so you're seeing all the real serious stuff. Similarly, to be a litigation attorney, which is what I initially was focusing on, I knew that getting in the courtroom, if you just go to work at any law firm, they're going to throw you in an office, you're going to do legal research and writing, you're never going to get into a courtroom. So I went back up to New York for law school, and at that point, I worked at the Queens District Attorney's Office. I did an internship there, was in the courtroom with the licensed prosecutors, and started gaining that litigation experience and exposure while in law school. And then when I graduated law school, I came back down to Florida and was a Miami-Dade state prosecutor for 3 years and tried everything from DUI misdemeanor crimes cases all the way up to murder cases, carjackings, home invasions, and that's what got me into the area of litigation, so to say. Then after that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just listening. I was thinking to myself, like, along those years, through law school, and then when you got out, did you have like any major setbacks, obstacles, where you were up against the wall and you had to make decisions on, sink or swim kind of thing, or maybe was there ever a time where you just said, maybe this isn't for me, or were you just so laser focused, nothing was stopping you?
Well, in regard to getting the actual law degree, it was certainly something that I knew whether you were going to practice law or not. Having a law degree is a great tool in your educational arsenal, so to say. It enables you to learn how to think in advance, how to anticipate what the other party or person that you're maybe negotiating a deal with or talking to from a business aspect is thinking. And so it was always something I knew I was going to do, regardless of whether I practiced or not. But once I did obtain the ability to, get that law degree, start practicing, as I said, I did grow up in a more affluent family. I was certainly lucky to have that experience, but there were some setbacks, family disputes, so to say, for lack of a better way of putting it, where sort of departed ways without getting into greater detail, where I wasn't really involved with my family anymore. So I found myself in a situation where it was sink or swim. It was you grew up, had your education paid for, was certainly appreciative of that, always did well, always worked hard, and, wasn't something I took for granted. But then you find yourself sort of without that support, without that, pillar to lean against if there are any difficulties or issues. Certainly having the family help supplement my lifestyle. As a prosecutor, you don't I was earning $26,000 a year back in 1997, not the largest salary. And then when I had that disconnect with my family, it was, wow, you're either going to sink or swim on your own. You're going to make it happen or you're not. And at that point, it was, a big struggle that I went through. I had to, change my career and focus on something that I could make more than $26,000 a year on.
Unreal. I almost think coming from an affluent family and then disconnecting and then kind of starting from scratch again, like going through those ups and downs is probably even tougher than just, starting at the bottom from scratch and then, building a little bit and a little bit and a little bit more and a little bit more. It's like you had it and then cut off and then starting again, like all over. And that had to be tough. And you did it. You proved to yourself and your family and look at you today. So that speaks volumes, in my opinion. It's great.
Yeah, no, thank you. It was definitely something that was difficult. Like you said, if you come from not having much and having to start out on your own from the very beginning, it's obviously very different than going through your, beginning stages of life, always saying to yourself, wow, you always have that, I guess, crutch to rely upon. God forbid something happens, my family can maybe help me out, and then you find yourself not sort of having that mental crutch to rely upon, and it is a bit of a, shock and awe type of event where you say to yourself, gee, now you're out in the mean, cruel world on your own, no family to help, no family to support, you're either doing it on your own or you're not. And like you said, having it, losing it, and then trying to get it again is very different than just starting out, not having it, and trying to attain it.
Yeah, no, that's that, and moving to a whole new part of the country, right? Coming down to Florida.
Absolutely.
At the same time. Yeah.
Yeah,
yep.
Absolutely. So was definitely an obstacle that I never thought I'd have to overcome in my life. But I had a very supportive wife, and the two of us were a great team together, and we managed to focus and make a very successful life for ourselves now. So you actually feel better when you can do something 100% on your own, and you're able to take the bull by the horns and really apply yourself and become a success and say, gee, I didn't need that crutch to begin with anyway, because look, I don't have it, I didn't have it, and I push forward on my own. It's a much more satisfying feeling. So.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. That's huge. All right, so let's fast forward a little bit. So when you started to get into business law, let's say going over operating agreements and asset purchase agreements, when did you start getting into let's say business law and estate planning? How did that all wind up panning out?
So when I wound up leaving the state attorney's office, I stayed connected with a lot of my friends from University of Miami, which is a very great supportive community down here with the Alumni Association, and just made great friendships. So when I left the state attorney's office, went into private practice, my friends either had their own businesses, went into the family business, and started becoming more involved, as everybody does as you get older. Maybe the parents of my friends started backing out of the business. So the long story short is, my friends were really my biggest supporter when I first went into private practice. They started giving me legal work, whether it was business disputes, partnership disputes, any sort of litigation type of issues, contract disputes, but then also setting up new ventures and helping them with the corporate filings online with the state, setting up all the corporate documents, operating agreements if it's an LLC, stockholder agreements, bylaws if it's a corporation. So getting into all those various types of documents that one would put together when operating and beginning a company, my friends started using me, providing me that work, and then, of course, referring me to others. And here I am 23 years later with a very nice book of business that I can certainly thank a lot of my close friends for.
Yeah, it's just funny how that works out. It's like, as long as you do the right thing, you do the best you can, then all of a sudden, you're working with a few friends and you're starting from the bottom, and then the referrals start coming in, and then the introductions, and next thing you know, you've built a great, reputable business, and you started from the bottom, and now you're on your way to the top in no time. And it's just like doing the right thing. Obviously, you have to have the knowledge, and the gift to get there, but it's like always doing the right thing, and look what you've built, over time. It's very, very impressive.
Yeah, no, thank you very much.
Of course. No, of course. And by the way, I'm not, and we know each other a while now, but I'm not just tooting your horn and making you feel good. My goal is to make sure that our audience, tunes in. They obviously trust me because we've been working together a while, but I want them to feel the same with you, Lorne. So that's why I'm explaining all of this. And by the way, I remember I was getting ready for work. This has been a few months already, and I always watch Good Morning America as I'm getting ready. And I'm sitting there in the mirror. I have my hair dryer out and everything's great. By the way, no hair dryer. That was a little joke. But I'm getting ready for work, and I'm watching Good Morning America, and here is Lorne on the TV on Good Morning America talking about, a family that he's helped, and, he's got huge accolades, and they're talking about the interview and the story, and I'm like, oh, my God. I'm like, check this out. Lorne's on TV. So anyway, you're doing great stuff, and it's
Thank
just
you.
to hear that story, like how it all began to now, is just awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to fast forward again a little bit here. I want everyone to understand, where you are today, with your firm and your business, and kind of the direction that you're heading, and what some of your goals are, as far as your firm and your operation.
Sure. So I started out working at the firm that I'm at now after I left the state attorney's office as an associate, and now I'm one of the 5 shareholders and owners of the firm. We do many different areas of the law, whether it's business, corporate law, construction, real estate, and of course estate planning. And pretty much at this point, we've expanded based upon the different types of environments, and as the economy changes, and as the business world changes, and as our clients' needs change, we obviously change with our clients and whatever their needs are. So now here we're obviously focused on estate planning issues, and it's one of the areas that I do practice in, and I sort of develop that area of practice over time because, as I said, I build up a rapport with my clients. My clients trust me. They like the work that I do. And so they would say to me, oh, I have this issue or I have that issue. And admittedly, you can't graduate law school and know every area of the law. You can't practice law and know every area of the law. But if you have that drive and you have that desire to keep your clients, you don't want them to go to another law firm. You don't want them to use another attorney. So when they came to me, and likewise your listeners, you have clients, you have consumers out there, you don't want them to go to somebody else. So when I had clients come to me and say, hey, I've reached a level of success, or I've started this business, I need a buy-sell agreement, I need to protect myself with asset protection, I would stay up day and night educating myself to ensure that I could properly guide my client and assist them and prepare whatever they needed, because the last thing I wanted was a client going to another lawyer, was a client calling me up and say, hey, I need this. Oh, sorry, I don't do that. Go to somebody else. And there's a lot of attorneys that are out there and that do that. They only want to focus on personal injury, or they only want to focus on one particular area, and there's nothing wrong with that. You don't want to be a jack of all trades, master of nothing, and you don't want to oversell someone, oh, I can do this, when you really can't. So you either, there's limitations on everything. If someone came to me with, some other type of litigation that I didn't do, of course, I would refer them to somebody else. But there's a lot of CLE courses out there, a lot of books out there. So, that's what I decided to do, was educate myself so I could help my clients out and keep them within my firm.
Yeah, no, I love it. And it's funny. So as I mentioned earlier, I've used Lorne several times for, as far as business, legal advice, or on a personal side. And, I don't know if it's because we're friends, but you've never said no to me. I mean, and you've helped me with, and not only have you helped me, you knew, both sides, you knew the middle, you knew the angle. So that, I exactly what you're saying, I've witnessed in real life. So I can also stand behind that. All right, so I'm going to get a little personal here real quick. So, knowing everything you know now, and, looking back, going back, 20 years, 30 years, is there anything that you would tell the younger Lorne, let's say, 20, 25 years ago, maybe something that you now know today that you would have said, oh, Lorne, if I only knew then, I would have went in a different direction, or any advice, for the listeners, anything that they can jot down, a good point?
Well, for me, that question, can be sort of very personal in the sense of yes, because for me, I think that the independence that I gained from having the issue with my family taught me later on in life that I would have enjoyed much greater earlier on in my life, to be more self-confident, trust yourself, trust what you are thinking, and sort of not have that crutch type of mentality. So for me, it would have been, be confident in yourself, know that you know what you're doing is right, and don't be afraid to fail either, because I was always afraid, oh God, I don't want to do this. Maybe I don't want to take a risk here. I don't want to fail. So for me, it's sort of like a twofold. It's like knowing that you're good enough and you're smart enough to be able to do it on your own at an early age. All you have to do is be focused, be open to learning, listening to other people, educating yourself, and then being able to take those skills and move on and trust in yourself and be able to do it on your own, focus on your own, and have that more independent type of mindset.
Yeah, that's huge. In fact, I just wrote that down. That's such a great point. Everything you just said is spot on, and I also feel exactly along those lines. Going through all of that, it makes you such a humble person and honest and true to your word, and it changes the type of person that you are and you become by going through that. So I so hardly believe in exactly what you just said. It's like those people that come from maybe other parts of the world, and they're, immigrants, and they started washing dishes here. Like you look at like that Manny Cospin, starting selling peanuts, at dealerships. It was like crazy. And look at the guy today, and he's exactly the same guy. Like that, to me, is everything. And that's a good point, Lorne. And I feel like we both kind of came from that. And look at, how we are today. So that's a good point. I love it. Okay, this is probably my favorite part of my the podcast. I love to hear like any good field stories? You know, it could be a great miracle story or something that kind of kicked you back a little bit. But anything that you remember, you know, years ago that you can share with the audience that they can relate to?
Well, there's lots of interesting stories when I first started out, and I had being a former state prosecutor, I had a very active criminal defense practice as well, and plenty of funny, interesting stories that probably are not really on point with the purpose of today's discussion in regard to estate planning and the like. So I'll fast forward a little bit to one story that I really enjoy is I had a client of mine that I helped start from the ground up back in 2015, young entrepreneurs, early 20s, that created an app, and it was an app to assist people with parking and scheduling parking at different venues, creating contracts with different venues, different cities, and incorporating food delivery services, and really an all-encompassing app, and helping these young entrepreneurs literally from the very beginning, where they didn't even have money to pay me, and they offered me actually shares in the company rather than for legal services. And if I can tell you how many times, rather than to pay for the legal services, how many times I've had clients, you know, say, "Oh, we're a new business, we're a new company, we'll give you points in the company, we'll give you shares," and, you know, being partners in a law firm, obviously it's really not something that's doable, because how do you split that revenue with the law firm, et cetera. So, you know, I foolishly turned them down, and of course hindsight's 2020, but they became Miami's first unicorn company, meaning Miami's first $1 billion in value company. And that's a company that I literally helped these guys start from scratch, corporate filings, corporate documents, taking on investors into the company, doing all the venture capitalist documents, mergers, acquisitions with other companies as we gobbled them up along the way. And it was a great learning experience for me, and it was, more importantly, a great experience for my clients who literally they were, you know, recently bought out by a foreign bank, and now I see these, you know, 20-something, you know, year-olds, younger 30-year-olds, literally walking away with tens of millions of dollars, and that's, you know, just something that's a great feeling to see your clients start out from the very beginning with nothing, come to such great success. And of course, now that you have success, what do you need? You need estate planning. You need documents. You need life insurance policies. And it's just like a really great full circle type story that's, you know, really on point as to why we're here today.
Great story. I love that. And you know what? You know, you look at that like, you know, you had an opportunity to be part of it, and obviously you felt there was a little conflict there, and you decided to just protect, you know, the legal side, and you have also built a relationship and a client for the rest of your life. I mean, these guys
Absolutely.
trust you like family, and the referrals and family members. So, you know, look how it paid off in the long run, and look how happy and content the clients are. So you did the right thing once again, and that's the outcome. Sure. So great stuff. All right, so we're going to jump in now. You know, we have agents out there. Some, like I said earlier, are financial advisors, CPAs, and some are, you know, third bedroom agents, you know, maybe selling over the phone or online or face-to-face. I want to dive into some sales ideas, strategies, and I want you all to know how Lorne can fit into your business model, you know, and when is it time to email him or call him. And by the way, we'll share everything after the call so you can get in touch with him. But I want to kind of shift gears a little bit, Lorne, and ask you just to explain, you know, we all know now what your firm does, but I want them to know how you can fit into an agent's life, regarding estate planning or anytime they need to bring you in and make the introduction, so to speak?
Sure. No, thank you. There's so many different aspects that agents obviously encompass on a daily basis. They're obviously interacting with clients or prospective clients out there, and of course, these clients or prospective clients have questions. The questions could be, as I'm buying this policy, how can this policy help me? Can this policy be used for investment purposes? If so, how? Should I have a will or should I have a trust, and what's the difference? So there's those types of questions that certainly the agents can always guide the client or the prospective client on all the different policies that are out there and whether they can be used for investment tools or not, or how they can benefit each individual and their family. But when you start getting into the technicalities of what type of estate planning to do, or how can this policy help me plan my estate, maybe cover taxes. There's so many different aspects and questions that not everybody knows, not every agent knows, and so there's people out there like myself that can help the agent give the client the right direction and the right information so they feel comfortable that they're not only buying a product, but they're buying it for a purpose, and they're buying it knowing that it's protected. I can fit in and complement an agent in doing that, making sure that their clients feel comfortable, have the knowledge that they need, and the full understanding as to how these policies, life insurance policies, GUL policies, whatever it might be, can benefit someone to the fullest extent, and also make sure that the money is protected when one day the policy comes into effect.
Yeah, just on a very basic level, think about this, and this happens literally every day. So just a typical, let's say, a universal life policy, let's say it's a young family, right, in their 20s, 30s, and they have very young children, maybe 3 and 5 years old, and they're setting up beneficiaries, okay, and they want their children to receive the proceeds when they pass. Well, right. What happens if the children are under 18, right? You need to create a trust and name the trust as the beneficiary. Very black and white, very simple, but again, that's when Lorne will come in and make sure that everything is set up properly and it's a win-win. And the most important thing as an insurance agent, you have to trust that Lorne is on your team and that he's not going to say, oh, by the way, my cousin, Bill Smith is also an agent and he's got a little more experience when it comes to this. Here's his phone number. That happens all the time. Okay, and I will stand behind Lorne, okay, every day of the week, 24/7, that forget an idea that would even come up, that if anything, he's going to send them right back to you, no matter how far that relationship is built or what happens, if he helps them with other avenues. If the insurance sale comes up again, right back to you. So you can feel comfortable knowing that. Now, I wouldn't put myself on the line unless I felt comfortable introducing him to you all. So I'll just leave it at that. Okay, let's move forward here. Anything like, let's say, when it comes to estate planning, necessities, suggestions, ideas, concepts that agents can bring up to even tee up a sale and bring you in, let's say over the phone or in person?
Sure. So creating a trust, creating an estate planning strategy for someone. Some of the most important things that I feel are often overlooked is you can create a trust for someone all day long, but if you don't fund the trust, then obviously it's worthless. So if you have a policy, let's just say you have a policy, a universal life policy that's out there, and you've had it in effect for 2, 3, 4, however many years, and now you've decided to go ahead and create a trust for yourself. Obviously, that's something that we can assist with and I can work with the agents with. But one of the most important things is the agents need to realize that any policy that's out there needs to be needs to be funded into the trust. So whatever paperwork is needed in order to do that, the agents need to get that paperwork together and get the policy into the trust. So that's something that's really important.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea. Moving forward here, who are good prospects to look for when bringing up estate planning ideas and again, once again, making the introduction to you? When is the time and who is the good candidate? I think it's pretty much everybody, but I'll let you share on that.
Sure. So, like you've said, there's no age that you shouldn't have estate planning done. From the standpoint of you're a young person, maybe recently married or starting a family, you want to have all those basic documents in place to ensure that your family, your children are protected. Likewise, part of estate planning, it's not always about money. It's about making sure that you have a healthcare surrogate, that you have a living will in case you're incapacitated, that you have someone that you trust in order to make those medical decisions for you should you not be able to do it for yourself. So that might be more of an elderly type person to make sure that you have those healthcare surrogates laid out, that you have the living will laid out to ensure that your medical wishes are carried out the way you want them. Maybe you don't want to be resuscitated. God forbid you find yourself in that situation. You need to have estate planning documents out there to provide the directions to your family members or whoever those trusted people are. So at any age, estate planning is important, whether it's from a financial basis or from a healthcare basis.
Yeah, and you don't want to wait until it's too late. And that's where you come in, okay, and propose this and bring it up and make the introduction and make sure your client's prepared. So it's very important. I feel like it's our duty to bring this up and make sure, hey, if they pass on this and say, no, we're fine, we can just set it up, with your two beneficiaries or, whatever the case is, that's fine. But I feel like it's your duty to bring this up with almost every sale.
Sure.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be expensive, by the way. A lot of people think, estate planning, this is so expensive, it's complicated. Honestly, sometimes, nowadays with email and electronic communication, there's people that, don't want to drive. I have offices in Broward, Dade, and around the state, but sometimes people can just shoot an email, lay out all the information, prepare the documents, email them back, have them signed. So it doesn't have to be that overwhelming, stressful type process. It can be very basic and beneficial all at the same time.
Yeah, that's also a good point. Yeah, it doesn't have to be the client and let's say the spouse. If they're in the 6-digit area as far as yearly income, there's no set number. Okay, I don't want, even if it's blue collar family, everybody, in my opinion, needs to discuss what will happen in the future. And so like Lorne said, through email, it doesn't have to be a huge number. Okay, so but it's important enough for you to bring up. All right, let's move forward here. I know I'm getting a little long-winded here. I get excited with these podcasts. This comes up all the time, okay? Estate taxes, right? Death tax that beneficiaries are faced with, okay? And there's a lot of rumors around this and things changing, from a political side. And, can you just tell us, the black and white here, Lorne, so our agents can bring this up intelligently to their clients?
Sure. So being brief and not being too detailed, but certainly giving a good overview. So death tax is not really like a legal term, but it's certainly a common term that people use. But it's a commonly referred to or a common way that people will refer to estate tax. So you have estate tax on a federal level, which, of course, there's tax exemptions. You're not going to be taxed unless it's over $11 million. So because there's exemptions based upon the value of the estate. If it's $5.5 million if you're an individual, $11 million if you're married. So you have these different federal estate taxes that people are always concerned about, and rightfully so. So you want to plan to where you can have trusts. You can have different trusts so your estate is broken up and it's not all under one trust if you have assets that are greater than what the federal tax exemption is. You can create a legacy trust for your children and put assets in a legacy trust. Then you can have your family trust and you can have assets in a family trust. So there's many different ways to set up your estate and have your assets in varying trusts and laid out in different ways so you can avoid a death tax or, the legal term, an estate tax. There's certain states have inheritance tax where the federal government won't impose an inheritance tax, but some states will. Now, we're here in the state of Florida. State of Florida is a great state in many ways. There is no state income tax, and likewise, there's no inheritance tax here in the state of Florida. So if you're a resident of the state of Florida, your concern is just making sure that your estate is set up where you hopefully can avoid those federal estate taxes. And of course, if you find yourself in a position of where you may be someone that falls into being subjected to the estate tax, that's where you and your agents can come in helping various individuals that may fall within the estate tax of getting policies, whether it's a universal life insurance policy or other policies that are offered out there, where the tax won't be paid from your actual estate, but the policy will cover the taxes. And so that's something that the agents listening can use as a great sales tool to help people properly prepare, which is you want to leave your family your full estate. You don't want that going to the federal government, so you get a policy that's going to cover the potential taxes.
Yeah, that's spot on. And by the way, Lorne can discuss this for hours. So we just wanted to give everyone enough information to be dangerous and sound, somewhat intelligent when you're going over this, but it's also a great time to make the introduction. Okay, but you need to know at least enough to be dangerous and when that trigger comes up. I also want to bring this up, and I'll let you continue, Lorne, if you want to mention anything else. But I have a very good friend of mine, and again, I won't mention any names, but he happens to be very, very, very wealthy. Forbes 400 list year after year. And, here's a gentleman that makes, hundreds of millions of dollars. And, he personally spends over probably about $250,000 a year in premium on a life insurance policy. And, an answer you get from a lot of prospects is, oh, you know what, I have a nice estate that I've built and my kids are going to walk away with my estate, so I really don't need to spend money on life insurance, okay? So here's a friend of mine that makes, hundreds of millions and one of the wealthiest guys in Florida, and he spends a few $100,000 a year in premium, not to make sure the kids walk away with the death benefit, but to make sure his children walk away with the estate free and clear, and then using the life insurance death benefit to pay for those estate taxes that are going to come up. Okay, so that's another angle. And, no one, I don't care if it's, the bottom of the blue collar space or if it's the top of the white collar space, there is always a need for life insurance to protect the estate. I don't care who it is, okay, especially when there's children involved. Okay, so it's very, very important that at least the minimum to sound intelligent when you're talking to both sides. Okay, Lorne, is there anything else you want to bring up as far as gift tax? I know we touched on the death tax. Anything else that you want to bring up before we move on?
Sure. I mean, just briefly mentioning the gift tax, it can fluctuate from year to year, but there are gift tax benefits where you can give family members, or maybe you have a close friend that you help take care of. Right now it happens to be $15,000 where you can give them $15,000 a year tax free, and that's another way over the course of time to help someone, may it be a family member or a close friend, build up a level of wealth, or a little nest egg, so to say, for their future. And so at the end of the day, it's just another way to have a tax-free investment avenue to help make your money go as far as it can without it going to Uncle Sam.
Yeah, that's huge. These are just little things that can make a big difference in your client's life, and even your life and by the way, as an agent, obviously we all have to protect our families, right? And this is going to come up for yourself too. So that's another avenue. Okay, if you need any advice, suggestions, Lorne will be available to you as well. Lorne, do you want to share your email and office number in case anybody needs to reach out?
Sure, thank you. The office number is 305-448-7988. And my email is leb@drbdc-law.com. Sometimes I confuse myself with all these alphabet soups out there, but it's leb@drbdc-law.com.
Yeah, and then also you all have my information, so you can reach out to me anytime. I would be more than happy to make the introduction. Just let Lorne know that you work with Levinson because, as I said earlier, we have 17,000 agents, and you're basically riding the coattails of the entire group, and because of that, we get special type rates and discounts. So make sure to mention that, and Lorne will take good care of you. And I said it, 4 times now. I'll stand behind him 100%. You will be very, very happy. Okay, so just right before we wrap up here, I like to end with this. And, we have a lot of agents on here, and we also have people on here that are, friends of mine, family, that have nothing to do with the insurance industry at all. But I hope everybody learns a little something, which is my goal. We're taking time out of our busy days, Lorne and myself, to ultimately help our audience, clients, friends, all the above. There's nothing that's more satisfying to me than someone saying, hey, I listened to the podcast. It was great. I'm calling Lorne to set up a will now for my family, or, hey, I just learned a little something about motivation. Okay. And you don't even have to make the call or whatever the case is, but that is my goal. And I know Lorne feels the same exact way. So I want to end with this. Just last little comment here. If there's anything that, any advice that you have, Lorne, suggestions, let's say it has to do with, being an attorney, or maybe just on a personal side, for the younger audience especially, maybe going through some obstacles, roadblocks, anything that they can jot down as a good walkaway?
Well, I mean, the bottom line is, if I did it, you can do it. And there's hundreds and thousands of people out there doing the hustle every day. And the bottom line is, I found myself in a horrible situation, something that I never thought I would find myself in. And like I said, it was either sink or swim. And only you can make it happen. There's people out there. You can listen to Bill. You can listen to myself. And there's so many, people out there trying to, preach the inspirational gospel out there, but at the end of the day, only you can make it happen. Rely upon yourself. I wish when I was younger I had that confidence that I have now, and so if it's anything that I can help the younger people that may be listening to this walk away with, it's believe in yourself, trust in yourself, and you can do it as long as you're willing to put in the work, the effort, and teach yourself and listen to others. And there's no person out there better than yourself to get the job done.
Yeah, that's spot on. Perfect. I love it. And then I'll add my closing comment here at the end, and exactly to Lorne's words there. I always say I don't care, what you're doing or how much or how little education that you have, pick whatever it is, if it's, the law school and being an attorney, or if it's in insurance, or if it's, literally cleaning cars, okay, whatever the case is. And by the way, we both know people that detail cars, and now they have this ceramic coating and the special waxing and the 3M clear bra. These guys, and some of them are young kids, and some women that we know do this. They're making hundreds of thousands of dollars by detailing cars, okay? So my point is, I don't care what it is. Pick one thing and be the absolute best at. Obsess about it. Make it your priority. Get laser focused with the internet and podcasts. And there's so much free education and inspiration out there. There's no more excuse. So go out, be the absolute best at it, and you will make it happen. Okay? I promise you that. So with that said, I want to thank everyone for taking the time and spending this last hour with us. I especially want to thank Lorne for taking time out of his very busy schedule, okay, especially this is on a Monday afternoon. So we really appreciate you, Lorne. And feel free to reach out to me. We'll make the introduction, take advantage of our group type pricing. And at the end of the day, we just want to make sure you're taken care of, your client's happy, and it's a win-win across the board. With that said, have a great rest of the day. Great selling. Take care, and thank you again.
Thank you for joining us for the Bill Levinson Experience. Please feel free to share this podcast with anyone you think would be interested. You may also visit levinsonandassociates.com and all of Bill Levinson's social media pages for more information.